So once again, welcome back to the session, everyone. So in the last day's session, over the last 3 days, we have revised about the areas of audit risk, internal control deficiencies, then substantive procedures, and all of the main areas. So in today's session, we will be primarily focusing on 3 main areas, one in relating to the reporting part, the other one in relating to corporate governance, and other areas in relating to ethics as well. And we will start with the area of ethics first. So, we have already studied in our regular session properly about the ethics. And we know that there is one of the most common questions that usually used to appear. That's the fundamental ethical principles. The examiner might ask you to explain the fundamental ethical principles or ACCA's Code of Ethics and Conduct. So, principles of professional ethics, fundamental ethical principles, ACCA Code of Conduct, ഇതെല്ലാം ഈ സെയിം കാര്യം തന്നെയായിരിക്കും വരുന്നുണ്ടാവുക. So which all were the fundamental ethical principles? Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. So these are the 5 fundamental ethical principles. Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. So basically, when it comes to integrity, it means that the members should be always straightforward and honest in all their business and professional relationship. നമ്മൾ എന്ത് തരത്തിലുള്ള ബിസിനസ് അല്ലെ പ്രൊഫഷണൽ റിലേഷൻഷിപ്പിൽ ഇൻവോൾവ് ആകുന്ന സമയത്തും നമ്മൾ ഓണസ്റ്റ് ആയിരിക്കണം, അതേപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ ഏറ്റവും പ്രോപ്പർ ആയിട്ടുള്ള രീതിയിൽ ആ കാര്യം പെർഫോം ചെയ്യണം, സ്ട്രേറ്റ് ഫോർവേഡ് ആയിരിക്കണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നതാണ് ഇന്റഗ്രിറ്റി. വെൻ ഇറ്റ് കംസ് ടു ഒബ്ജക്ടിവിറ്റി, ഇറ്റ് മീൻസ് ദാറ്റ് ദ മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ഷുഡ് നോട്ട് ബി ബയാസ്ഡ്. സോ ദർ ഷുഡ് നോട്ട് ബി എനി ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ് that might be affecting the auditor while the auditor take judgments. സോ ഓഡിറ്റർ എന്ത് തരത്തിലുള്ള പ്രൊഫഷണൽ ജഡ്ജ്മെന്റ് എടുക്കുമ്പോഴും അവിടെ ആ ഓഡിറ്റർ എടുക്കുന്ന ജഡ്ജ്മെന്റ് അഫക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന രീതിയിലുള്ള ഒന്നും ഉണ്ടാവാൻ പാടില്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ objectivity എന്ന് വിളിക്കുക. Then when it comes to professional competence and due care, it means that whenever an auditor is involved with a client company, they should always be providing the client company with the most up-to-date class of work. So before accepting every work, they need to consider whether they are having adequate amount of competence or whether they have sufficient knowledge, and they should attain the work only if they have got proper knowledge in that work. In addition to which, the auditor should always keep on updating his knowledge. Auditor എപ്പോഴൊക്കെയാണ് knowledge update ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് വരുന്നത് അപ്പോഴൊക്കെ knowledge properly up to date ആയിട്ട് തന്നെ കീപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടാവണം. Then next one is confidentiality. The confidentiality will mainly consist of 2 things. First of all, when we get an information from a client company, we should not disclose it to any other person unless there is a legal or professional duty or there is approval from the client. In addition to which, once you get an information from the client company, you should not use it for any other purpose other than the purpose for which you have obtained that. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളൊരു ക്ലയന്റിന്റെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് ഒരു ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ ഒബ്റ്റൈൻ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എന്ത് പേർപ്പസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ വാങ്ങിച്ചത് അതല്ലാതെ മറ്റൊരു പേർപ്പസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പാടില്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കോൺഫിഡൻഷ്യാലിറ്റി ആണ്. Then basically when it comes to professional behavior, it means that as a member you must always be complying with law and regulation and you should not do any act that may discredit the profession. നിങ്ങൾ എന്ത് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്തും ലോ ആൻഡ് റെഗുലേഷൻ പ്രകാരം തന്നെ ചെയ്യണം. പ്രൊഫഷണൽ ബോഡിനെ ഡിസ്ക്രെഡിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒന്നും ചെയ്യാൻ പാടില്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നതാണ് പ്രൊഫഷണൽ ബിഹേവിയർ. Then moving on, threats to professional ethics. There are 5 threats which will fundamentally affect a auditor in maintaining objectivity. Out of which the first threat is a self-interested. So it's a situation where an auditor will be giving more importance to his own personal interest rather than the professional interest. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഓഡിറ്റർ അയാളുടെ പേഴ്സണൽ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിനെ ആയിരിക്കും കൂടുതൽ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് കൊടുക്കുക പ്രൊഫഷണൽ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിനെക്കാളും. അതിനുള്ള പോസിബിലിറ്റിനെയാണ് സെൽഫ് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ത്രെറ്റ് എന്ന് വിളിക്കുക. And mainly it occurs when it comes to the case where the auditor is getting a gift of hospitality, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓഡിറ്റർക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും ലോൺ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഗ്യാരണ്ടി ക്ലയന്റ് കമ്പനിക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഓഡിറ്റർ ഓഫ് ചെയ്യുകയോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓഡിറ്റർ എടുക്കുകയോ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. When there is overdue fee, we know that when there is overdue fee, there is 2 possibilities. First thing, the auditor might think that if the auditor have given an inappropriate opinion, in the sense that if the auditor is giving an unfavorable opinion for the client company, in that case, the client might not be willing to pay the existing outstanding fees also. So in that case, auditor might be forced to give a favorable opinion for the client. That's the first case. അപ്പം ഓഡിറ്റർക്ക് പഴയ ഫീസ് കിട്ടുമോ എന്നുള്ള പേടിയുടെ പുറത്ത് ഓഡിറ്റർ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും, ഫേവറബിൾ ഒപ്പീനിയൻ കൊടുക്കും. അല്ലെങ്കിലോ there can be chances that when there is overdue fee, auditor might be having a fear that the fees might not be recoverable. In that case, auditor will reduce the quality of the audit. So that's a situation where self-interest will arise. Then if the fees is on the basis of percentage or contingent basis, say for example profit in 5% ആണ് ഫീസ് എന്ന് പറയാണ്, പ്രോഫിറ്റ് മിസ്റ്റേറ്റഡ് ആണെങ്കിൽ ഓഡിറ്റർ അത് കറക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറയോ? ഇല്ല, ബിക്കോസ് ഓഡിറ്ററിന്റെ ഫീസ് കുറഞ്ഞു പോകും, ഓഡിറ്റർ കറക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറയില്ല. high percentage fees. We have studied that for 2 consecutive years, if an audit firm is receiving more than 15% of a client company's revenue from a single, if the audit firm is getting 15% of their total revenue from a single client, that is something called high percentage fees. അപ്പോൾ 2 വർഷം അടുപ്പിച്ച് ഓഡിറ്റ് ഫേമിന്റെ ടോട്ടൽ റവന്യൂന്റെ 15% മേലെ ഒരു സിംഗിൾ ക്ലയന്റ് ആണ് തരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ഹൈ പെർസെന്റേജ് ക്ലയന്റ് ആണ്. സോ ദർ ഇസ് ഓൾവേസ് പോസിബിലിറ്റി ഓഫ് ഹാവിംഗ് providing a favorable opinion in order to retain that client. So we must be using an external quality control reviewer to perform the review of the work performed by the auditor as a safeguard. So basically, when it comes to lowballing, it's a situation where we will reduce the amount of audit fee. Correspondingly, we will reduce the quality of the audit. അപ്പോൾ ഓഡിറ്റ് ഫീസ് കുറയ്ക്കുകയും അതിനോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ ക്വാളിറ്റി ഓഫ് ദി ഓഡിറ്റ് റെഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനാണ് നമ്മൾ ലോ ബോളിംഗ് എന്ന് പറയാം. When it comes to recruitment, consider that audit firm have appointed an employee in the client company. So in that case, if the employee is working in accounts department and if the employee have done some kind of wrongful act, in that case, auditor will not talk against that particular person because it will also affect the auditor's credibility. So he will not talk against the particular person. So it will create self-interest. Consider that we have a financial interest in the client company. We have an investment in shares or debentures. In that case, if we talk about the client company, there can be chances that we might also lose our money. So in order to avoid that situation, we will not talk against the client. So if there is any close business relationship, or if we have already been employed with the client company in the previous years, or if any of the audit firm's partner is working in the client company's board of directors, in all these situations, self-interest will arise. So this is a situation where there is possibility of having self-interest to objectivity. So wherever there is situation that shows that audit will give more importance on his own personal interest rather than professional interest, it will give rise to self-interest. Then the next one is self-review thread. So basically, when it comes to self-review thread, consider that an auditor have performed any sort of financial reporting related services for the client company, and now he is also responsible for reviewing that. So in that case, definitely the auditor will not talk against himself. So that is something called self-interested. നമുക്കറിയാം ഒരു ഓഡിറ്റർ ഒരു ക്ലയന്റ് കമ്പനിക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ റിപ്പോർട്ടിംഗ് റിലേറ്റഡ് സർവീസ് ഓൾറെഡി ചെയ്ത് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെയാണ് പിന്നീട് സെയിം ഓഡിറ്റർ തന്നെ അവർക്ക് എഗനിസ്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് സംസാരിക്കാൻ വിളിക്കാവോ? ഇല്ല. അപ്പൊ അവിടെ ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന ത്രെട്ടാണ് സെൽഫ് റിവ്യൂ ത്രെഡ്. സോ ലെറ്റ് ഇറ്റ് ബി എനി സർവീസസ് ഇഫ് ഇറ്റ് directly or indirectly affects a client company's financial reporting, it can be treated as a self-review thread. The next one is advocacy thread. So basically, when it comes to advocacy thread, there's always a possibility that the auditor might represent the client company at a point. Auditor എവിടെയെങ്കിലും client company കുറിച്ച് represent ചെയ്ത് സംസാരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് അവിടെ ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന ത്രെട്ടാണ് advocacy thread എന്ന് പറയാ. And when it comes to familiarity thread, so consider that there is just a relation between the auditor and the client company, which is beyond professional relationship. Say, for example, the auditor and the client company's CEO is going together for a movie, or if they are together going and attending other casual functions. In all this situation, if it is a relation which is beyond the professional relation, it can be considered as a familiarity thread. Or else, if there is any long-term relationship with the client company, like we are employed with the client company for over a period of 7 years. കഴിഞ്ഞ 7 വർഷമായിട്ട് കണ്ടിന്യൂസ് ആയിട്ട് ഞാൻ ക്ലയന്റ് കമ്പനി തന്നെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാണ്. സോ ദ പോസിബിലിറ്റി ഓഫ് ഹാവിംഗ് ഫെമിലിയാരിറ്റി ത്രെഡ് വിൽ ബി ഹൈ. ദെൻ intimidation threat. So basically, the intimidation threat will arise in 3 situations when there is possibility of having coercion, undue influence, or creating limitation in the scope of audit. So basically, say for example, consider that there is coercion. Coercion or the ഭീഷണി എന്നാണ് പറയാ. Auditor is being threatened by the client company. Say for example, the auditor is not provided with sufficient audit fee, or in other words, the auditor is threatened by telling him that the client company will not be willing to provide the next year's audit or any other related services. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളോട് മറ്റെന്തെങ്കിലും കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞ് നിങ്ങളെ ഭീഷണിപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണെങ്കിൽ തന്നെയാണ് intimidation എന്ന് പറയാ. Second one is undue influence. The client company is using influence indirectly or directly to give a specific opinion. Like say for example, your family member is working with a client company, or consider that any of your previous firm's auditor or your seniors who were there in your previous audit firm or the current audit firm have joined the client company, and now they are in such a position to influence you. In that case also, it will give rise to intimidation threat. Or else if there is any possibility of having limitation in the scope of audit. Say for example, if you're not getting sufficient time for the purpose of performing the audit, if you're not getting access to a specific information, client is not willing to provide you a particular information, in all this situation also intimidation threat will arise. അപ്പോൾ എവിടെയൊക്കെയാണ് നിങ്ങളെ ഭീഷണിപ്പെടുത്താൻ ചാൻസ് ഉള്ളത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പ്രോപ്പർലി ഓഡിറ്റ് പെർഫോം ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടുള്ള എബിലിറ്റി ഇല്ലാണ്ടാക്കുന്നത് അവിടെയൊക്കെ എന്തുണ്ടാവും? ഇന്റിമിഡേഷൻ ത്രെറ്റ് ഉണ്ടാവും. So you can distinguish between these threats. Consider that there are two threats which you can entirely distinguish. The first one is self-review, and the other one is advocacy. So basically, when it comes to self-review, that threat will arise only in one situation where you have already performed a financial reporting related service for the client company. And when it comes to self-interest, advocacy, it will arise only when you represent the client company at a point. The connected threats are familiarity, self-interest, and intimidation. So if there is a family or personal relationship with any member in the client company, it can result in these three threats, but different situations. Say, for example, if your wife is working with a client company, definitely there can be chances that you might act in your own personal interest. So that will be self-interested. Consider that you are having a personal relation with one of the member in the client company. So in that case, it may be because of the familiarity. And consider that somebody else in the audit firm is being influenced by one member from the client company. In that case, it will be intimidation threat. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളെ ഭീഷണിപ്പെടുത്തുകയോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളെ അൺഡ്യൂലി ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ് ചെയ്യുകയോ ചെയ്താൽ ഇന്റിമിഡേഷൻ ആവുള്ളൂ. നിങ്ങൾ അവരും തമ്മിലുള്ള ഒരു മിയർ പരിചയത്തിന് പുറത്ത് മാത്രമാണ് നിങ്ങൾ എന്തെങ്കിലും കാര്യങ്ങൾ അവർക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ വില്ലിങ് ആവുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അതെന്തായിരിക്കും? അത് ഫെമിലിയാരിറ്റി ആയിരിക്കും. ബിയോണ്ട് ദാറ്റ് ആണ് നിങ്ങളുടെ സെൽഫ് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് കൊണ്ട് നോക്കിയാണ് നിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുന്നതെങ്കിലാണ് സെൽഫ് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റഡ് ആവുന്നത്. Then there's also possibility of having management threat, whereby there can be chances that the auditor might assume some of the management's responsibility as part of the audit firm's responsibility, which might affect his independence. That's called management threat. അപ്പോൾ ഓഡിറ്റർ ചില സിറ്റുവേഷൻസിൽ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും? മാനേജ്മെന്റിന്റെ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റീസും ഓഡിറ്റ് ഫേമിന്റെ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി ആയിട്ട് അസ്യൂം ചെയ്ത് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യും. അങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടാവാനുള്ള പോസിബിലിറ്റിയാണ് മാനേജ്മെന്റ് ത്രെട്ട് എന്ന് വിളിക്കുക. And to understand about the significance of the threat, we need to consider the value, seniority of the staff, impact to the firm, and materiality to the financial statements. If the value of the threat is high, automatically the threat will be high. Then significance of the threat will be high. If the seniority of the person associated with the threat is in a higher rank, then automatically the threat will be high. If the impact created to the audit firm is high, automatically the threat will be high. If the materiality to the client company's financial statements is high, the threat significance will also be high. And whenever there is threat, we know that we should always be taking adequate safeguards to overcome that threat. അപ്പോൾ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് safeguards എടുക്കണം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത്? So whenever there is a significant issue, you can discuss the issue with the client company's audit committee or with those charged with governance. Same as that, if you want to remove any particular person from the audit team, you can do that. Say, for example, in the client company, audit manager's wife is working as the CFO. In that case, automatically the audit manager might be influenced. So we can remove that audit manager from the audit team. And in case wherever there is possibility of having reducing quality of the engagement, then we can obtain an external review of the work done. Whenever there is possibility of having familiarity threat, we can rotate the senior person. We can use two separate teams for avoiding the self-review threat. Throughout the audit, we can always consider maintaining professional skepticism as a general point. We can seek advice from the professional body. We can maintain organizational code of conduct. Whatever services are requested to be performed by the auditor, that can be politely declined. And in case if a particular member is having any financial interest in the client company, he need to dispose of that interest immediately. And finally, in every case, auditor can consider resigning from the engagement if adequate safeguards cannot be taken by the auditor. Then, in addition to this, you might be getting a scenario whereby they might be asking you about the threat that might arise when you audit multiple entities in a competent market. ഒരു സെയിം ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയിലുള്ള മൾട്ടിപ്പിൾ എൻറ്റിറ്റീസിനെ നിങ്ങൾ ഓഡിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് അവിടെ എന്തൊക്കെ ത്രെഡ്സ് ആണ് ഉണ്ടാവാൻ ചാൻസ് ഉള്ളതെന്ന് നിങ്ങളോട് ചോദിക്കും. സോ ദേ ക്യാൻ ബി ചാൻസസ് ഓഫ് ഹാവിംഗ് ത്രെഡ് ടു independence and objectivity, as well as there can be possibility of having issues relating to confidentiality as well. So there is two situations in relation to this. When we audit multiple company in a same market, or when we audit entities that trade with each other, there can be chances that we might audit Apple and Samsung together. So these are the entities from the same industry that compete each other. There can be chances that we might audit Apple and Intel company. So these are the companies that trade with each other. So in that situation, there can be possibility of having threats to objectivity and confidentiality. So the first safeguard that needs to be taken by the auditor. നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം safeguards ആയിരിക്കും നോർമലി ഇങ്ങനത്തെ ക്വസ്റ്റൻ ചോദിക്കുക. സേഫ്ഗാർഡ് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ആദ്യം നമ്മൾ പറയേണ്ടത് what we need to do is we need to notify both the client. രണ്ട് ക്ലയന്റിനെ നമ്മൾ ഈ കാര്യം ഇൻഫോം ചെയ്യണം. എന്നിട്ട് അവരുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് കൺസെന്റ് വാങ്ങണം. We need to obtain consent from them. And if they have provided us the consent, then in that case, we need to use separate engagement team for both the client. Then there should be procedures to prevent access to information. Apple's information should not be sent to Samsung or vice versa. Then the confidentiality agreement need to be signed by each of the engagement team members. Then we need to regularly review the application of safeguards, and we need to give independent advice to the client company. And if we are not able to follow any of the above mentioned safeguard, we should decline or resign from the audit engagement. And as we learned earlier, for the engagement partner, engagement quality control reviewer, and for the key audit partner, for all of them, the period served will be same. They can only serve a maximum of 7 years with the same audit client. The cooling off period will only be different. For an engagement partner, the cooling off period will be 5 years. For an engagement quality control reviewer, it will be 3 years. And for the key audit partner, it will be 2 years. Is that clear, everyone? Okay. Yeah. So basically, during the course of your exam, you might be getting a question from the area of ethics and ethical threats. So the examiner might be asking you to identify and explain ethical threats, and you might need to provide a safeguard to overcome that threat. So whenever you get a scenario like this, you must be considering about all the ethical threats that might arise from the scenario, and you need to mention about the appropriate safeguards that you need to take. So when you get a question on ethics, you need to provide the ethical threats and safeguards for the same. So whenever you mention about the ethical threat, first of all, you need to identify the threat from the scenario. Our scenario ethical threat identify. Secondly, you need to explain it. Explain it in the sense you need to mention which threat it is and how you need to consider it as threat. That need to be explained. And as a safeguard, you need to mention about what needs to be done by the auditor to overcome this threat. So let's do one thing. Let's read this 2 paragraph and let's try to identify threats from the scenario and the related safeguard. The finance director is keen to announce company's financial results to stock market earlier than last year. And in order to facilitate this, he has asked if the audit could be completed in a shorter time scale. In addition, company is intending to propose a final dividend once the financial statements are finalized. Herling Company's finance director has informed the audit engagement partner that one of the company's non-executive director has just resigned, and he has inquired if the partners at C&Co can help Herling Company in recruiting a new non-executive director. Okay, so they have mentioned about a scenario, and you need to pick whatever that things went wrong with this scenario. Okay, so tell me, what are the ethical threats here? എന്തെങ്കിലും ethical threat ഉണ്ടോ ഇവിടെ? എന്തൊക്കെയാ മക്കളെ ethical threat സിനാരിക്കകത്തുള്ളത്?
Audit could be done in a shorter time scale.
Okay, so they have asked whether the audit could be done in a shorter time scale. So what will be the threat in that case? എന്തായിരിക്കും threat വരിക? So first of all, you need to identify that. You need to mention that the finance director has requested the audit engagement partner to complete the audit in a shorter time scale. Yeah, right one. Lyric, can you mention it over the mic? So what will be the threat? You need to mention that this may give rise to a intimidation threat to objectivity, as there are possibilities that the auditor might be pressured to reduce the quality of the audit engagement because the auditor will not be able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in a shorter time scale. So this is what you need to mention as the ethical threat. And then you need to mention the safeguard. What should be the safeguard in this case? And then you can safeguard at So anyway, you won't be able to perform the audit in a shorter time scale. Discuss with the management. The audit engagement partner should discuss with the management whether they will be provided with additional time scale for the purpose of performing the audit engagement in accordance with the standards. And if not, the auditor should politely decline the engagement and he should not continue with it. So this is what you need to give us a safeguard. Clear? Okay. Then what else is the ethical threat here? Where ethical threat and the where in the ethical threat and scenario?
Helps in recruiting new NAD.
Exactly. The audit engagement partner has been asked to help them in recruiting new non-executive director for the holding company. So what will be the threat in that case, ethical threat in that case? Which ethical threat will arise when we help them in recruiting a new NAD? Exactly, we can mention that it will create or it will give rise to self-interest, right? So you can mention that the company have requested whether the audit firm can help them in recruiting new non-executive directors. Therefore, there can be chances of having self-interest to objectivity, as the audit firm cannot undertake the recruitment of members to the board of directors of the company, as the non-executive directors will be responsible for overseeing the audit process. So what should be the recommendation in that case? The same thing, you can politely decline it. So the auditor should communicate the matter with the client company's management and those charged with governance, and should inform them that the auditor will not be able to be part of the process of recruitment of client company's staff members, including the non-executive directors. So that is what you need to give us the safeguard. Clear? Is that clear, everyone? Okay, so you need to identify the threat from the scenario, explain it, why it is considered as threat, and mention which threat it is. And as a safeguard, you need to mention about what you need to do in order to overcome this threat. Clear? Okay. Then this is how you need to give answers for the area of threat. So I believe it's clear. So we have got 5 ethical threats in total: self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy, familiarity, and intimidation. Okay. The next one. Let's move on to the next area of corporate governance. So well, we know that when it comes to the area of corporate governance, these are the policies and procedures, or these are the way in which an organization should be directed and controlled in the interest of the shareholders and stakeholders. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു കമ്പനിയുടെ ഷെയർഹോൾഡേഴ്സിന്റെയും സ്റ്റേക്ക് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിന് അനുസരിച്ച് ഒരു ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ എങ്ങനെ റൺ ചെയ്യണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനെയാണ് കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് ഗവേണൻസ് എന്ന് നമ്മൾ വിളിക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവുക. So first of all, as per corporate governance guidelines, we know that the firm should be properly following leadership related responsibility, which means the board should be headed by the company should be headed by an effective board, and always the board should be looking for the company's long-term success. So an effective board of directors ആയിരിക്കണം company run ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അവരെപ്പോഴും ഫോക്കസ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട കമ്പനിയുടെ long-term success promote ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടായിരിക്കണം. And same as that, there should be a clear division of responsibility between the head of the company and between running of the board. So who will be the head of the company? It will be the chairman. Sorry, it will be the CEO, and the running of the board is the responsibility of the chairman. So which means literally chairman and CEO should be separate. Chairman and CEO ഒരിക്കലും ഒരാളാവാൻ പാടില്ല. Unfettered powers ഉണ്ടാവാൻ പാടില്ല. Undivided powers ഉണ്ടാവാൻ പാടില്ല. ഇവർ രണ്ടുപേരും separate persons ആയിരിക്കണം. Then the chairman will be responsible for the leadership of the board, and he is responsible for making sure the effectiveness of the role. And the chairman should be the member of unitary board, and whenever there is a decision which is being taken by the executive directors, that should be challenged by the non-executive directors. Our unitary board at the non-executive directors in a duty ആയിരിക്കും executive directors in a challenge ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടേ ഇരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത്. Then when it comes to effectiveness, there should be a balance of skills, experience, independence, and knowledge. നമ്മുടെ ബോർഡിലുള്ള എല്ലാവർക്കും പ്രോപ്പർ സ്കിൽ ഉണ്ടാവണം, എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവണം, ഇൻഡിപെൻഡൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവണം. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ബോർഡ് ഷുഡ് ഓൾവേസ് ബി ബാലൻസ്ഡ്, വിച്ച് മീൻസ് equal number of executives and non-executive directors should be there. So say, for example, if there are 3 non-executive directors, there should be 3 executive directors also. Then there should be a formal, rigorous, and transparent procedure for the appointment of new directors to the board. So directors should be appointed only by passing proper resolutions and all. Directors and each of the directors should spend sufficient time to discharge their responsibilities effectively. ഓരോ ഡയറക്ടേഴ്സും സഫീഷ്യന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ടൈം സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് മാത്രമേ അവരുടെ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റീസ് ഇഫക്റ്റീവ്ലി ക്യാരി ഔട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പാടുള്ളൂ. And all the directors should receive a training, that is induction training, when they join, and they should regularly update and refresh their skills and knowledge. Directors എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടാവണം? അവർക്കുള്ള നോളജ് അപ് ടു ഡേറ്റ് ആക്കിക്കൊണ്ടേ വെക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവണം. ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷൻ ട്രെയിനിങ് അവർക്ക് കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവണം. And the directors should be supplied with timely information in order to carry out their duties properly. And the directors' performance should be annually be evaluated. ഓരോ ഡയറക്ടേഴ്സും പ്രോപ്പർ ആയിട്ട് തന്നെയാണ് പെർഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നുള്ളത്. ഓരോ വർഷവും നമ്മൾ റെഗുലർലി റിവ്യൂ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടേയിരിക്കണം. And directors should also be re-elected on regular basis, which means the maximum period where a director can run will be for the continuous of 2-year period. And at the end of the second year, that is in the third year itself, auditor should be re-elected. Then, when it comes to accountability, the board should present balanced and understandable assessment of company's position and prospects. ബോർഡിന്റെ ഡ്യൂട്ടിയാണ് കമ്പനിയുടെ പൊസിഷനെ പറ്റിയിട്ട് ഒരു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡബിൾ അസസ്മെന്റ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി വെക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ബോർഡ് ഈസ് ഓൾസോ റെസ്പോൺസിബിൾ ഫോർ മെയിൻറ്റൈനിങ് എ പ്രോപ്പർ റിസ്ക് മാനേജ്മെന്റ് ആൻഡ് ഇന്റേണൽ കൺട്രോൾ സിസ്റ്റം ഫോർ ദ കമ്പനി. ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഓൾസോ ദ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി ഓഫ് ദി ബോർഡ് ഇൻ ഓർഡർ ടു എൻഷുർ ദാറ്റ് ദേ ആർ the company is maintaining proper relationship with the company's auditors. And when it comes to the remuneration, so executive directors in the remuneration എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, it should always be based on long-term success of the company. It should never be based on short-term success, which means that profit in the basis നേരെ കേട്ടിട്ട് remuneration വെക്കരുത്. And the remuneration should also not be determined by any other persons other than the members of the remuneration committee. Remuneration committee ഉള്ള ആളുകൾ മാത്രമേ remuneration fix ചെയ്യാൻ പാടുള്ളൂ, വേറെ ആരും fix ചെയ്യാൻ പാടില്ല. Then, when it comes to the relationship with the shareholders, we have studied that it is the responsibility of the total board to maintain satisfactory dialogue with the shareholders. It is not only the chairman's responsibility. Whole board of directors should take the responsibility of communicating with the shareholders. Finally, it is the responsibility of the board to communicate to investors and encourage their participation. So, all the investors should be encouraged on regular basis, and they should attend the annual general meeting as well. In addition to this particular set of regulations which are mentioned in the corporate governance code, we have also studied about the formation of audit committee. Every audit committee should be having 3 non-executive directors, a bare minimum of 3 non-executive directors, out of which 1 should be financially expert and 2 others should be financially literate. So this is what we mentioned with regarding the non-executive directors. And these 3 non-executive directors will together form a company's audit committee. Okay, they will together form a committee, company's audit committee. So this is what we studied as per UK Corporate Governance Code. Okay. So we'll be getting questions from this area as well. So we'll practice one of the past question paper. We'll look at a few points from the past question paper. Okay. See, this is the way in which you will be getting questions from the area of corporate governance. They will ask you to describe 5 corporate governance weakness faced by TITA company and provide recommendation to address each weakness to ensure compliance with corporate governance principles. So literally, you want to go through each of the weakness and you need to understand what are the recommendations that need to be provided in relation to the same. So everyone, please do one thing. Please read this paragraph and try to pick whatever be the corporate governance weakness in this scenario. Please go through this, everyone. Done? Okay. T company's board is comprised of 6 executive directors and a non-executive chairman and 3 other non-executive directors. The chairman and one of the non-executive directors are former executive directors of Tangerine and on reaching retirement age were asked to take on non-executive roles. Company has established an audit committee and all NEDs are members including the chairman who chairs the committee. And all 4 members of the audit committee were previously involved in sales and production related roles. So what are the issues here? And the problem. So the first thing, they have clearly mentioned that they have 6 executive directors and a non-executive chairman and 3 other non-executive directors. So what will be the issue here? The board is not balanced, right? There are no equal number of executive directors and non-executive directors. So what will be the issue that might occur when a board is not balanced? There can be chances that they will not be the board of directors. The non-executive directors will not be able to ensure that whether the board make objective decision. So there can be chances that the executive directors might dominate the board. So that will be the issue. And what can you give us the recommendation in that case? So you can mention that Tita company should consider appointing additional non-executive directors to the team, and they should ensure that the board should be balanced. Then what else is the issue? So again, they have mentioned in the very next line that the chairman and one of the NED are former executive directors of T company, and on reaching the retirement age, they were asked to take on non-executive roles. So what will be the issue in that case? So it's clearly represent that the non-executive directors are not independent. So they were previously involved in executive directors role. So what will be the issue there? So if they are not able to maintain independence and objectivity in making judgment, then automatically they will not be able to perform their responsibilities appropriately. And as a response, what we can give, Tita company should remove all the non-executive directors who are not independent. Instead, new non-executive directors who are having independence should be appointed to the team. Okay. Then again, there are issues that the company has established an audit committee and all NEDs are members, including chairman who chairs the committee. So what will be the issue in that case? Well, we know that the audit committee should be consisting only of independent non-executive directors. Chairman should not be part of the audit committee as he will not be able to maintain independence and objectivity while performing multiple tasks in the company. So as a response, what we can give, chairman should be removed from the audit committee and one of the newly appointed independent non-executive directors should be replaced to the chairman's position. And very finally, there's another problem. All the 4 members of the audit committee were previously involved in sales and production related roles. So we have already discussed very clearly that the non-executive directors who are having financially literate or who are having financial expertise should only be involved in the audit committee. And in case if the audit committee is not having appropriate person with sufficient knowledge, there can be chances that they might not be able to carry out their duties properly. And what should be the response in that case? Yeah, the most important response will be the fact that the company should consider removing all the members from the from the audit committee, and a new audit committee should be formed who are having financial experts and people with financial expertise, or the non-executive directors with financial expertise. Clear? Clear, Anamaklai? Okay. So this is how you need to pick each of the deficiencies in the corporate governance or the weakness in the corporate governance, and you need to provide a corresponding recommendation to overcome each of the corporate governance weakness. Clear? Okay. So the next and most important area is the area of reporting. Well, we have already studied the area of reporting very well in the earlier sessions. So let's quickly go through the area of reporting part. So basically, well, we know that when it comes to reporting, we have got multiple types of opinion. So basically, when it comes to the types of opinion which we need to express on a company's financial statements, we'll classify it into 2 heads. Which are the types of opinion? It will consist of modified opinion and unmodified opinion. So these are the two types of opinion we need to express over the company's financial statements. So the unmodified opinion will be further mentioned as unqualified opinion, which means the financial statement shows a true and fair view. And the modified opinion will be further be divided into three types, which includes qualified opinion, adverse opinion, and disclaimer of opinion. So these are the three types of modified opinion. So qualified means the financial statements shows a true and fair view, but exceptive or excluding some reservations. Adverse opinion means the financial statements does not show a true and fair view. And the disclaimer of opinion means that the financial statements, we are not able to express our opinion on the financial statements due to the lack of audit evidence. So these are the three types of opinion which we will express over the company's financial statements. So in order to determine which type of opinion we need to express on the company's financial statements, we need to consider whether a mistake is material, as well as we need to consider whether a mistake is pervasive. And to understand whether a mistake is material, we can consider either it on the basis of the statement of profit or loss, or on the basis of the statement of financial position. And we must consider the mistake also on the basis of its nature. So when it comes to the statement of financial position, we know that we need to consider the total asset and the net asset. When it comes to SOPL, we need to consider profit, gross profit, and the company's revenue. So what's the benchmark of this statement of financial position ka total asset?
1%.
1%. What about the net asset?
2%.
2%. Profit? 5%. What about gross profit?
0.5.
Exactly. And what about the revenue?
0.5.
0.5 itself. And while considering whether something is material on the basis of nature, which are the main two elements which we need to consider? Whether it's a matter which relates to a related party transaction, which means any transaction with a director, any transaction with a company owner, any transaction with a parent company, subsidiary company, or joint venture will always be considered as material on the basis of its nature. Or if there is something which affects the company's ability to continue in going concern, that can also be considered as material on the basis of its nature. So this is how we will consider whether a matter is material on the basis of its nature. And after considering the materiality, you must also consider whether a mistake is pervasive. And to understand whether a mistake is pervasive or not, what we need to do? We need to consider whether the mistake affects multiple areas or multiple elements in the financial statements. That will be pervasive. Whether it's a mistake that affects only a single area, but the substantial portion is affected, which means a major portion is affected, then that is pervasive. Or if it is relating to a fundamental accounting disclosure, again, that will be pervasive. But when it comes to exam approach, we will consider whether the profit of the company will be restated into losses after the misstatement are adjusted, or whether the losses will be converted into profit after the misstatement are adjusted, then it will be treated as pervasive. അപ്പം എപ്പോഴും നോക്കാം, ഓൾറെഡി പ്രോഫിറ്റ് നിൽക്കുന്ന കമ്പനി ലോസിലേക്ക് പോകാൻ നോക്കാം മിസ്റ്റേക്ക് അഡ്ജസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ശേഷം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓൾറെഡി ലോസ് നിൽക്കുന്ന കമ്പനി പ്രോഫിറ്റിലേക്ക് പോകാൻ നോക്കാം മിസ്റ്റേക്ക് അഡ്ജസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ശേഷം. അങ്ങനെ പ്രോഫിറ്റുള്ള കമ്പനി ലോസിലേക്കോ, ലോസിലുള്ള കമ്പനി പ്രോഫിറ്റിലേക്ക് പോവാണെങ്കിൽ ആ എമൗണ്ട് ഓഫ് മിസ്റ്റേക്ക് നമുക്ക് എന്തായിട്ട് ട്രീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം? പെർവേസീവ് ആയിട്ട് ട്രീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. ക്ലിയർ ആയ മക്കളെ?
Yes.
Okay. Then what about the types of opinion? Consider that there's a mistake in the financial statement, misstatement, which is not material and not pervasive. Which opinion we need to express? We need to give a unqualified opinion. Then there's a misstatement which is material and pervasive. Which opinion? Adverse opinion. When there's a misstatement which is material but not pervasive, in that case we need to give a qualified opinion. And consider that there's a lack of audit evidence in the financial statements. So we are not able to get evidence relating to a particular mistake. So when there is lack of audit evidence, if the lack of audit evidence is not material and not pervasive, in that case also we need to give a unqualified opinion. When the lack of audit evidence is material and pervasive, then we need to give disclaimer of opinion. When the lack of audit evidence is material but not pervasive, in that case we need to give a qualified opinion. Is that clear, everyone? Okay. Yes. Then, in addition to which, we have also studied about different types of explanatory paragraphs. So, which were the explanatory paragraphs which we already studied? Emphasis of matter paragraph, other matter paragraph, key audit matter paragraph, other information paragraph, material uncertainty relating to going concern paragraph. Appo endayinu makkale emphasis of matter paragraph nu parnale, these are the paragraphs which are used to specify about any matters which is already appropriately presented and disclosed in the company's financial statements. Already company financial statements appropriately present and disclose in use emphasis of matter paragraph. When it comes to other matter paragraph, it's a paragraph which is used specifically for the purpose of mentioning about anything that is not mentioned in the financial statements. So this will be the factors in relation to the current year audit or about the auditor's responsibility or about the auditor's report. That's other matter paragraph. And when it comes to key audit matter paragraph, we know that this paragraph is specifically used for the purpose of listed entities. So a listed entity case, already those charged with governance communicate those charged with governance communicate the users inform use in the paragraph key audit matter paragraph. When it comes to other information paragraph, it's a paragraph which is specifically used for the purpose of mentioning about other information. We know that other information paragraph is mainly used for the purpose of mentioning about mistake in the annual report or to mention about anything relating to annual report. You can use other information paragraph. Then MURGC or the material uncertainty relating to going concern paragraph. It's a paragraph which is specifically used to mention about the going concern. And if something went wrong with the going concern, you will not be able to use this paragraph. But you can use this only if the going concern uncertainty is appropriately present and disclosed in the financial statements. You can emphasize about the same matter in the material uncertainty relating to going concern paragraph. Going concern matter related uncertainty appropriately present and disclosed material uncertainty relating to going concern paragraph use better. Is that clear? Okay. So basically, you will be getting questions in relation to the area. So when you get a question in relation to the area of reporting, so you must be considering multiple factors and then you need to give the answer. So this will be the regular requirement that you will be getting for your exam. Discuss the issue and describe the impact on auditor's report. If any, should this issue remain unresolved? എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് issues ഇവിടെ ഉള്ളത്, എന്താണ് auditor's reportന് മേലെ വരുന്ന impact if the issues remain unsolved. Okay. So everyone, please do one thing. Please read this introductory paragraph. Okay. See, so they have mentioned it over here. It is 1st July 2015. Dashing Company is manufacturing women's clothing and its year end is 30th April 2015. You are an audit supervisor of John T and Company, and the year end audit for the Dashing Company is due to commence shortly. The draft financial statements recognize profit before tax of 2.6 million, total asset of 18 million, and you have been given responsibility for auditing receivables, which is a material balance. And as part of the audit approach, positive receivable circularization is to be undertaken. And as at the planning meeting, finance director of Dashing Company informed the engagement partner that company was closing one of its smaller production site, and as a result, a number of employees would be made redundant. Redundancy provision of 110,000 is included in the draft financial statements. So this is what it's mentioned with regarding the Dashing Company. Okay. So they have mentioned here that company is planning to make some of the employees redundant after the year end. So for which they have created a redundancy provision of 110,000. Then a few months have now passed. Audit team is performing the audit field work, including the audit procedures, which you recommend over the redundancy provision. The team has calculated the necessary provision should amount to 305,000. The finance director is not willing to adjust the draft financial statements. So it's clearly mentioned here that the provision created by the company is not appropriate because they have created only a provision of 110,000, but the actual amount of provision required is 305,000. So what will be the amount of mistake in this case? So the actual amount of provision required is 305,000. Company have recognized only 110,000. So what will be the amount of difference here? There will be a difference of 1,95,000, right? So this can be called as the misstatement. So in this situation, they have asked us to discuss the issue and describe the impact over the auditor's report if these issues remain unresolved. So what we need to do, we need to find out the impact that will be created over the auditor's report. And to understand the impact, we need to know the materiality as well as the pervasiveness. So as you can see over here, the amount of materiality of the misstatement have to be calculated. So the amount of misstatement currently is 195,000. So to calculate the materiality, we can use the figures mentioned over here. They have given us the company's profit before tax and also the total asset of the company, right? Profit before tax and total asset and so first of all, we need to do one thing. Well, we need to calculate the materiality on the basis of the company's profit and as well as on the basis of the total asset. So 0.195, which is the amount of misstatement, should be divided by 2.6 into 100. And when it comes to total asset, you have to take 0.195 divided by 18 million into 100. So what will be the amount of profit? 0.195 divided by 2.6 into 100. So it will be 7.5% of the profit. What about the total asset? 0.195 divided by 18 million into 100. So it will be 1.08% of the total asset. So will this misstatement be considered as material in this situation? Yes, it is, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, on the basis of the total asset, any mistake above 1% will be material. So in this case, it's 1.08%. And on the basis of profit, any misstatement above 5% is material. Here it's on the basis of materiality, it's 7.5% of the profit. So definitely it is material. And we'll have to consider whether this mistake of 0.195 is pervasive. So can we consider it as a pervasive mistake? Definitely not, because the company's profit is already 2.6 million. So if you reduce 0.195 million plus 2.6 from 2.6 million, or if you reduce 1,95,000 from 26 lakhs, it will not be restated into losses. So the company will still be in profit. So it cannot be treated as a pervasive mistake. Clear? So in this situation, we can conclude that it's a mistake which is material, but it is not pervasive. It's a mistake which is material, but it is not pervasive. So in that case, we need to give a which opinion? Exactly. We need to give a qualified opinion. So this is how you need to find out the answer in relation to the reporting. So you'll have to calculate the amount of misstatement from the scenario, then try to calculate the materiality. You have to consider materiality in relation to any of the two elements in the financial statements. If the amount is material, either in relation to any one of the figure, it can still be considered as material. And after considering the materiality, you have to calculate whether it is pervasive or not. Finally, you need to mention which opinion you need to express in that case. So in this way, or in this manner, you will be finding out the opinion that you need to express over the company's financial statements. Then, once the opinion is finalized, you will have to present your answer. So when you present the answers for the reporting question, first of all, you need to mention the fact in the scenario. So whatever it is actually mentioned in the scenario, the fact have to be picked. Then you need to properly specify the accounting treatment that is required. Accounting treatment required. Then you need to specify about the misstatement in the financial statements. Then specify whether this amount is material or not. Then you need to mention whether it is pervasive. Then you need to express which opinion you need to give on the company's financial statements. And then you need to mention about the basis of opinion which you need to express on the company's financial statements. Just mention that following the opinion paragraph, you should also provide basis of dash opinion in order to quantify the impact of dash misstatement in the company's financial statements. So we will start with the answer. You can take the fact directly from the scenario that the company is planning to make some of the employees redundant after the year end. Therefore, the company have recognized a provision of 110,000 and they have included it in the draft financial statements. However, the audit fieldwork has confirmed that the actual required redundancy provision is 3,05,000. So there's a amount of misstatement of 1,95,000. Then you mentioned the accounting treatment as per IAS 37 provision, contingent liability and contingent asset. Company should have created adequate amount of provision for the probable future cash outflow. And since they have not created adequate provision of the company is understated and the profit is overstated. The amount of provision represents 7.5% of the profit and 1.08% of the total asset. Therefore, it is material. However, it cannot be treated as pervasive as the profit is not restated into losses. Since there is a misstatement in the financial statements, which is material but not pervasive, auditor should express a qualified opinion stating that except the matters identified in relation to the provision, rest of the financial statements was a true and fair view. Following the opinion paragraph, auditor should also provide a basis of qualified opinion paragraph to quantify the amount of misstatement in relation to the provision that the financial statements are materially misstated. Okay, so this is how you need to present the answers in relation to reporting part. Is that clear, everyone? Yeah, we have already practiced the same in our regular sessions also. Then in addition to which, you must always be considering the way in which you need to present the reporting answers for the going concern as well. So, we have studied the reporting for going concern. So basically, we know that going concern is one of the most important judgmental area. So there can be chances of having multiple mistakes in relation to the going concern. So we need to consider properly about how we need to report the answers relating to going concern and the actual reporting impact that will be created over the auditor's report if there is any mistake in the company's going concern assumption. Consider that a company's going concern assumption is appropriate. What will be the opinion you will express in that case? When the going concern assumption is appropriate, you need to give an unmodified opinion, right? When the going concern assumption is inappropriate, then you need to give an unmodified opinion. Then when the going concern assumption is appropriate, what will we need to go? Going concern assumption is appropriate. First of all, when it is appropriate, you need to give an unqualified opinion when it is appropriate. And when it is inappropriate, you need to give an adverse opinion. So as we learned earlier, when the company's going concern assumption is appropriate, but when there is an uncertainty and which is adequately disclosed, in that case, we will be giving an unmodified opinion. But in addition to the unmodified opinion, we have studied that we must also provide material uncertainty relating to going concern paragraph also. And then when the going concern assumption is appropriate, but there's an uncertainty which is not adequately disclosed. In that case, what we need to do? We need to give a qualified opinion. But in addition to the qualified opinion, if the going concern is also not disclosed, then we need to give adverse opinion. If the uncertainty alone is not disclosed, then qualified opinion. If going concern is also disclosed, then adverse opinion need to be expressed. Then, if the management is unwilling to make the assessment, if the management is unwilling to make the assessment in relation to going concern, in that case, we need to give disclaimer of opinion. Or if the management is unwilling to extend the assessment, or if they haven't done the assessment completely, then in that case, we need to give qualified opinion. So you have to keep in mind these steps. Well, we have studied and we have practiced questions in relation to these areas as well. So please do revise this area in relation to the going concern reporting. Okay. So this is how you need to present the answers in relation to the going concern as well. So these are the major areas. Well, we have got 3 areas in total to discuss for today. We have got the areas of corporate governance, ethics, and in addition to which we have also discussed about the reporting part. So these are the main areas. So whenever you get a question in relation to the reporting part, you should always try to read the scenario very properly. And you need to first of all identify the actual mistake in the financial statements. Then once you find out the mistake in the company's financial statements, then you need to focus on the area where it is specified about the accounting treatment. So you need to mention the accounting treatment that is actually required. Then specify the misstatement about what went wrong in that case. Then immediately after that, you need to consider whether the amount of mistake is material. And after considering the amount of materiality, you will have to consider whether the amount of mistake is pervasive or not. And once you consider the pervasiveness, you need to show which opinion you need to give in that case. And finally, you need to mention about the impact over the basis of opinion as well. So this is how in total you will be giving answers in relation to the reporting part. Then, as we mentioned earlier, you need to focus on the area of you need to focus on the area of the corporate governance as well. Whenever you write the weakness in relation to the corporate governance, just identify the weakness, just explain it, and on the other side, give the recommendation on the way in which you can overcome that particular weakness. Then on the other area, when it comes to the area of ethical threats and safeguards, you need to consider about how this ethical threat is going to affect your audit or the auditor's objectivity. So you have to pick the particular threat from the scenario directly, identify the threat, explain it, and mention how it is going to create an ethical threat to objectivity. As a safeguard, you need to mention about how you can overcome the ethical threat. So this is what you need to write in relation to each of the questions during the course of your exam. Okay. So everyone, do ensure that you practice all of this area for maximum number of times. Well, we have practiced multiple questions from these areas, except when it comes to the area of corporate governance and ethical threats, because we are having only very limited number of questions in the revision kit as well in relation to these areas. So do practice all these areas for maximum number of times as possible. And in addition to which, you should also be focusing on the other areas as well. When it comes to the area of internal controls and audit risk, well, we know that we have got a lot of questions in the revision, and we have also practiced most majority of them. But do ensure that you are also practicing the same question again and again for maximum number of times, since you are having repetition questions from those areas. Okay. All right. So please do revise the other areas as well, and do ensure that you have got a clear picture about this area. Practice and practice and practice all these areas for maximum number of times, and do ensure that you're also having a clear picture on the other theoretical areas as well. Okay. Is that clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. All right. So you will be getting updates on the further classes in our group itself. So please do ensure that you are revising all these areas. And as I mentioned earlier, please practice all the questions for maximum number of times as possible. Okay. All right. So that's it, guys. So that's all for the day.